Today, I'm going to discuss the subject of bears. In this video, I will go over common myths about black bears, typical bear behaviors, what you can use as protection, what to do if you encounter a bear, and what you should never do. So stick around if you want to know more. If you've been following my channel for a while, you'll know I do a lot of hiking and backpacking, particularly in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. I've hiked and backpacked over 2,000 miles over the past 5 years, and I have encountered approximately around 30 bears. The information in this video is not only based on my personal experiences with black bears, but also on the research that I did specifically for this video. And I've included links to all of my sources in the description box below. Now, if you've ever gone camping, hiking, or backpacking out in the wilderness, you've probably wondered, how likely am I to be attacked or even killed by a bear? First, let me just reassure you, the answer is not very likely at all. Statistically, on average, you're more likely to be struck by lightning or killed driving to the trailhead. In fact, the most common causes of death in the backcountry are falls, drowning, heart disease, and hypothermia. In fact, most confrontations between bears and people can be avoided with a good understanding of bear behavior and showing bears respect. You should go out into the woods not with a sense of fear, but with a sense of understanding. How you react to a bear encounter should be based on the bear's behavior. That's why understanding a bear's state of mind is so important. Now, before we get started, let me just say that I highly recommend that you do your own research into the laws and bear safety regulations for the park that you will be visiting. There are 3 types of bears: black bears, brown bears, also known as grizzly bears, and polar bears. It is important to know, though, the difference between a black bear and a grizzly bear. Some of the differences are black bears have tall, pointed ears, a straight profile, short claws, and no hump. Grizzlies, on the other hand, have a large shoulder hump, short, round ears, a dished profile, and long claws. It is more important to focus on these particular features as their size and coloring can be similar. Of course, in this video, I will focus on the topic of black bears. It is estimated that there are anywhere from 1,500 to 1,600 black bears in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. In the Smokies, black bears are actually black in color, but depending on what part of the country you are visiting, some black bears are actually either brown or a cinnamon color. The typical size of a black bear is 6 feet in length and 3 feet in shoulder width, and they weigh anywhere between 100 and up to as much as 600 pounds. Plants, nuts, and berries make up 85% of their diet, along with fish and small animals. But bears are opportunistic animals, which means that they will eat just about anything that's a quick, easy meal. They are most active in the early morning or late evening hours, and they make their homes in hollow tree stumps, way up high in trees, and also in rock cavities. Contrary to popular belief, black bears do not truly hibernate, but go into long periods of sleep. They have been known to leave their den for short periods of time if they are disturbed or if there's unusually warm weather. There are lots of misconceptions about black bears. Let's put those rumors to rest and dispel 5 common myths. You can find a link to more dispelled myths in the description box below. Myth number 1. Bears are unpredictable. In some ways, it's difficult to know how an individual bear might respond in an encounter. But almost all bears use body language and vocalizations to show their intentions. There are typical aggressive behaviors that bears will show that when they are scared or on the defensive or wanting you to give them more space. Some typical bear behaviors are huffing, blowing air forcefully through their nose or mouth, displaying their teeth, jaw popping, panting, grunting or moaning, swatting the ground with their paws, or even bluff charging. A bluff charge is where a bear will almost sort of in a hopping motion run towards you, but at the last minute they'll either abruptly stop or they'll quickly veer off to one side. So don't always think that a bear coming towards you indicates that he's trying to attack you. Typically, a bear that is truly trying to be aggressive does not make a sound, and he'll usually have his ears flattened and he'll be staring at you directly. Myth number 2, a bear standing on its hind legs is about to charge. Actually, a bear standing on its hind legs is just curious. It is just trying to see you or catch your scent better. There was one time when I was out for a hike with my husband in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park where we had stopped on the trail to have a quick snack break. And so as he was joining a snack, you know, it was probably a good 200 yards away, but the ice cream truck. Hold on. Hi, sorry guys. I had to actually move locations. The lighting got really bad and the sun was beating down on the camera and it was causing it to cut off. So we have moved. There's a lot of noises out today, so I apologize. I don't know. Just noises everywhere. Okay, so back to the story. So anyway, looking down about 200 yards down the trail, and we saw a bear. She stands up on her hind legs and she's like sniffing the air, and of course I'm sure at that point she probably smelled the Snickers, and because bears have a great sense of smell. Of course at that point Jerry and I, you know, stood up, and just because we just didn't want the bear to decide to kind of start, you know, coming towards us looking for this food smell. And pretty much what I did is I just ended up kind of, hey bear, we're up here, and you could tell she cocked her ears to listen, like, what's that? So anyway, she pretty much started off, and when she did, her cub followed behind her, so it was actually a mother bear and a cub. Myth number 3, bears have poor eyesight. Bears can actually see in color, and they have good vision similar to humans. Their night vision is also very good, and they are particularly good at detecting movement. Myth number 4, bears that enter campsites are dangerous. The noises, I swear. There was no noises when I got here. If you think about it, it's almost nearly impossible for a bear making its daily excursions through a national park not to most likely end up walking through a campsite. Bears will travel hundreds of kilometers in search of food. That's why it's so important to store your food and garbage properly so the bear will move on. If a bear is hanging around your campsite, something is attracting them. Remove that attraction and the bear will most likely leave. Whether in a campground or in the backcountry, you can make your campsite bear resistant. Prepare, cook, and eat your food away from your tent or shelter. Make sure fire rings are free of trash and food. Never leave food or any smelling items unattended. Keep your tent and your sleeping bag free of food and odors. Throw your trash away in bear-resistant trash cans, and use food storage lockers or bear cables to store your food and smelling items. In the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, there are established bear cables at every campsite and shelter that you can utilize to hang all of your food and smelling items. Pack it in, pack it out. Whatever you bring into the backcountry, take it out with you. Don't ever leave anything behind. If you make a meal and you can't finish your meal, make sure that you have brought some extra Ziploc bags or something that you can put that food into and carry that food out of the wilderness with you. It's extremely important to help not only protect the bears, but protect yourself by following all leave no trace principles, which I will link in the description below. It's important to know that park rangers will issue citations for littering, feeding bears, improper food storage, or approaching wildlife within 50 yards. These citations can result in fines of up to $5,000 and or 6 months in jail. Myth number 5. People traveling in bear country are often attacked. It's important to know that bear attacks are extremely rare. Although there are thousands of bear encounters every year, only a very few result in injury. Most bears will retreat before you're even aware of their presence. To put things into perspective, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration states that people die in car crashes at an average of 102 per day, and that was just in 2016 alone. Compare that to black bear fatalities that average less than 3 per year, and that's based off stats between the years 2000 and 2018. The National Park Service estimates that your chances of being injured by a bear are 1 in 2.1 million. But it's still important to stay alert and know what to do to prevent a possible rare attack. So, what can you use to protect yourself from bears? This may surprise you, but the best defense that you have against a black bear is your voice. Talking, singing, making noises, clapping your hands while you are hiking alerts a bear of your presence well before you ever see that bear. Another item that can be helpful for protecting yourself against a black bear encounter is a whistle. Now, a lot of people might have a different opinion on this, but I will tell you, in all the times I've hiked in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, a whistle has always been highly effective. Another item that can be very helpful in preventing an encounter with a bear is an air horn. Air horn is such a loud, unique sound and something that's not typically heard out in the wilderness that it can actually be very effective in scaring off a bear. But keep in mind that this shouldn't be a first resort. Always use your voice first, your hands, even the whistle before using an air horn. Just because you don't want bears to start getting used to the sound with not necessarily any human interaction. Bear spray is another item to use in protection of bears. Now, it's important that you're actually using bear spray, and you can find bear spray at any local outfitter, online, just pretty much any type of store that's going to carry any type of camping or hiking equipment. It's important that you do get a spray that actually does say specifically for bears, because regular pepper spray will not work, and you will want to always keep that bear spray in its holder and have that somewhere like on your hip belt or something at the ready to be able to access it. Otherwise, bear spray is not very helpful. And you'll always, when you're hiking with it, you're going to want to keep that safety cap on at all times, because bear spray is extremely potent. Now, it's important to note that bears can actually be attracted to bear spray, and what I mean by that is you don't ever use bear spray to as a deterrent. Don't spray it on your clothing, don't spray it on your tent, don't spray it around, because that has absolutely not only no effect against protecting you, but it might actually draw bears to you because of the scent. It's important to be using the bear spray only when a bear is within approximately 30 feet of you, and you'll want to spray that bear directly at its eyes and nose. It's also important with bear spray to be aware of the wind. You'll always want to use bear spray downwind. Another thing to note about bear spray is that in some parks it's actually illegal to carry bear spray. One of these parks in particular is Yosemite. Yosemite, if you go to their website, you'll see that they do not allow bear spray. But you'll just want to check to whatever park you're going to be visiting, look at the bear safety regulations, and just see, what they recommend or don't recommend. Trekking poles can also be another good item to have on hand to use not only as protection in case of an attack, but also to use as a way to make yourself bigger and appear larger to a bear. A knife is something you could also carry as a form of protection. A bear's going to have to be pretty close to you for you to be able to use it. And in my opinion, if a bear has gotten close enough to where he could come in contact with my knife, then most likely he's trying to attack me. If you're going to carry a knife, I do recommend that you're carrying it in a way that you have quick access to it, whether it's, wearing a knife necklace like, I do, or carrying something in your pocket. And the final item that can be used as protection is a firearm. And I could certainly give you my opinions on firearms and the backcountry, but we all have our own opinion about that particular subject. It's highly debated. So rather than give you my opinion, I'm going to give you some facts. So I'm actually going to read this information to you because this is information that I actually took from the National Park website. Since 2010, federal law allows people to legally possess firearms in national parks. That is the law. You are allowed to carry your gun in a national park. But according to the National Park website, discharging a firearm for any reason is still considered illegal. And while firearms have been effective at stopping an attack, they are still not recommended by the National Park Service. And they give two reasons why they do not recommend them. One, a report that was issued by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service found that law enforcement agents and experienced hunters who use firearms to defend themselves suffer injury about half the time. And while people defending themselves with bear spray escape injury most of the time, and the ones that have incurred injury, it was a lot less severe. The second reason, and maybe even more important reason, is that National Park Service strives really hard to protect the wildlife and the populations of wildlife. And that's why bear spray is recommended, because of the fact that most black bears are not trying to attack you to harm you. They're really just defending themselves, and usually they'll give you the scare warnings more than anything. But using the bear spray allows the bear to have an opportunity to possibly still live. Whereas if a gun is used on a bear, it's very likely could kill the bear, and so that diminishes bear population. So those are the reasons that are given on the National Park Service website. Now, along with that, the National Park Service does state that if a firearm is used against a bear, that you must contact park authorities immediately. This is also on there. There is still a possibility that you could be held responsible for the death of a bear, but that does vary state by state and by park. And those are the facts. So, what do you do if you encounter a bear? There are two main types of bear attacks on people: defensive and predatory. Defensive attacks are the most common causes of bear-inflicted injuries. A bear is almost always reacting defensively to a perceived threat to themselves, their cubs, or a potential food source. And this typically happens during a surprise encounter. In these cases, the bear is simply wanting to defuse the threat and leave. So what can you do when you see a bear? So the first thing to do is remain calm. Think before you act. That's very important, because sometimes our natural reaction is to turn and run. The idea is, fight or flight, right? But when it comes to black bears, you don't ever want to run. Run to a wild animal is perceived as a possibility that you are prey. By remaining calm, it allows you to kind of think about the situation, get a feel for what the bear is doing, what their behavior is, before you make a decision on what your next steps need to be. It is important that you do not approach a bear. In fact, National Park Service says that you must stay within 50 yards or more away from wildlife. 50 yards is approximately around 150 feet, and that is the minimum distance that you want to be from a black bear. I always recommend that if you come upon a bear, if you come around a corner on a trail or something and you see a bear, even if the bear is far away, is to stop exactly where you're at. The moment you see the bear, stop, and to go ahead and start trying to take steps backwards. Now, it's important when you are walking backwards that you're doing so purposefully so that you don't accidentally trip or something like that. And you want to still keep your body in the direction of the bear is facing. You also don't want to ever allow a bear to approach you. Now, if you do see the bear starting to walk in your direction or start to look at you for a little too long, and start talking. Just talk in a loud, as in a, not a soft spoken voice, but just a normal voice like, "Hey bear, we're people, we're walking down the trail." Because the important thing is you want a bear to know that you are a human. You want the bear to know that you're not some injured animal that maybe they could eat or investigate because they're curious. Once that bear realizes that you're a human, he's getting out of there. But I find that when a bear is just in a defensive mode, if you just give it space and you just step backwards, that bear will take off or go in another direction. That has been my experience with bears. Now, some people have had experience with a bear, bluff charging them and things like that. But there again, typically if you're giving that bear space, if you're going further away from the bear, then that's what they want. Attacks from predatory bears are very rare. Predatory bears do not vocalize. They do not make sounds. They do not huff or puff or swat the ground. A bear that is showing you way too much interest and following you, staring you down, is very possibly a predatory bear. I'm not trying to scare anyone. Don't think that going out into the woods that is a common thing. It is extremely uncommon for a bear to be predatory. But if you find yourself in a situation to where a bear is showing signs of being predatory, then there are things that you're going to need to do that are very important. If a bear is following you and it's showing signs of being a predatory bear, it is important that you stand your ground. You're going to have to show that you are more intimidating and stronger and bigger and scarier than they are. So you do this by not turning your back on the bear, not running away, grabbing any type of objects you can, sticks, trekking poles, making yourself look as large as you possibly can, and be loud. You're going to want to be very loud. You're going to want to be shouting. You want to be scary. And you're going to want to act aggressive towards this bear. You're going to try to intimidate it. Like I said, if you can pick up rocks, if you can pick up sticks, throw it at the bear. You want to try to drive this bear away. You want this bear to think, hey, I'm not going to be able to overtake this thing. It's bigger and scarier than I am. When you're in a group, you never ever separate. You want to come together as a group with your backs to each other. Like I said, also making yourselves look as large as possible, being as loud as possible, and again, throwing rocks, throwing sticks, whatever you have to do to scare that bear away. You absolutely 100% do not want to play dead with a black bear. You want to fight, and you're going to want to fight hard. Claw its eyes out, rip, punch it in the face, pull, rip its ears, do whatever you've got to do to defend yourself. But don't let that scare you. Like I said, according to the National Park Service, you have a 1 in 2.1 million chance of being attacked by black bear. What are some things that you should never do? Never turn your back on a bear. Never turn your back on a bear. Do not run from a bear. Running just does not work. You cannot outrun a bear. Bears can run up to 35 miles an hour, and they can do it within seconds. So there's no outrunning a bear. Do not climb a tree. Bears are very good climbers. You do not play dead with black bears. Only grizzly bears. Black bears, do not play dead. Do not approach a bear. Do not feed bears, and do not feed any wildlife. When you feed wildlife, you're taking them away from going out and foraging for their own food, which is vital to their survival in the wilderness. Don't hike with headphones in your ears. Now, maybe you hike with one ear in and one ear out so you can hear, and then don't have that music very loud. Have it low enough so you can still hear your surroundings. So it's important that you follow all the park's rules. So that means, staying off the closed trails, staying out of closed campsites, following leave no trace principles, respecting wildlife and things like that. And you can find all of these rules and information on the National Parks website. It's also important that if you take your pet into the wilderness, that you keep your dog on a leash. Now, it's important that whatever park that you're going to be visiting, that you check the rules to see if dogs are allowed on the trails or in the backcountry. In the Great Smoky Mountains National Parks, dogs are actually only allowed in the front country campsites, but they have to be on a leash when they are in those campsite areas. Dogs are absolutely not allowed in any backcountry campsites or any backcountry trails. They are allowed on 2 and only 2 trails in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Those 2 trails are the Gatlinburg Trail, which is behind the Sugarlands Visitor Center on the Tennessee side of the Smokies, or at the Oconaluftee Visitor Center, which is on the North Carolina side. At the end of the day, it is up to us to be educated about bears and follow all leave no trace principles, because ultimately most negative encounters with bears can be prevented. Your best defense in the wilderness is having the correct knowledge and understanding of bears and showing bears respect. So count yourself lucky if you've had the opportunity to spot one in the wilderness. Okay, y'all, that is it for this video. I hope that this video has been helpful to you in helping you have more knowledge and understanding about black bears. If you did find this video at all helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. I do videos every week. So until the next time, happy hiking, happy trails. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.